ಇಲ್ಲ என்ன Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam sadgurum brahma vidharam vasudeva sutam devam kamsachanuramardanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadgurum Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva Tvameva sarvam namadeva deva Tvameva sarvam gurudeva deva Hari Om. So we're looking at the human life more carefully and look at like all life forms, human being is also looking for permanent absolute happiness. And the way he's going, he will not get that permanent absolute happiness because it involves activities. So if you look at the type of activities and what he get out of it is called karma, the action. And every action, if you look at analysis wise, every action is trying to put into the system. That means an individual interacting with the world, a microscopic entity with a macroscopic, the whole universe, and result is given back by the system, and therefore it is the total universe response towards this action is the results of the action. So therefore every action has an appropriate result, and the result depends upon, or when it comes depends upon the type of action. So if I am studying for engineering, it may take many years for me to become an engineer, or if I have to accomplish, depending upon the nature of the task that I am trying to accomplish, it may take years, the results may take sometimes decades also. So like that, for every action there is always appropriate result that comes in the picture. And we said with every action also it leaves an impression depending upon with what attitude I perform an action. If I perform an action as a desire prompted action, that I want it and I need it and therefore I'll be happy with it, if I perform an action with an attitude, then not only I get the results appropriate to my action, but also the results will leave an impression depending upon whether I like the result or I don't like the result, whether it is conducive for happiness or it didn't bring the happiness that I want. It brought more suffering, then I dislike it, and if I bring more happiness, then I go after it again. So this cycle of action results, action results, action results seems to be a continuous cycle. And more than that, every action is also leaving an impression in my mind, and which I want to repeat or avoid, and this goes on all the way. So if you look at the whole analysis itself is, I'm trying to gain happiness, and I'm trying to gain happiness by performing an action which I like, assuming that the result will be to my liking, therefore I'll be happy. So all my pursuits, in fact, that called the sadhyatrayam, the three aspects of the results, is classified according to our Vedanta is dharma, artha and kama. So I want within the legal means, because I do not want to cross my limit, because if I do for my happiness and hurt somebody else, the other fellow will hurt me back. Therefore I try to follow the rules of the game, where within my rules I follow what's called dharma. So therefore I don't cross the limits, and within the dharma I earn money, because I found in order to fulfill my desires I need the wealth. So artha becomes important, and once I have the money, I try to fulfill my desires of what I like, and I enjoy this, or I go there and all places. So all my pursuits where the wealth becomes a motivating factor, then I spend my wealth in order to gain the desires. And again, artha, kama, moksha, the cycle goes on and on. People try to earn more and more, and the more they have, more they think they are. So therefore, it's trying to accumulation of the wealth, and I want the wealth for my security. I am worried about the security of the wealth also. So all these problems come into picture, because these are the three pursuits of life, and in that pursuits I am using kaya, vak, manaha, three the equipments that I have, which is the body, the mind, and the speech. And the three are the equipment that I use in order to gain what I want. Therefore, the life itself, as I said, is a continuous process of acquiring and so on and so forth, or avoiding. And analysis of the results that I am getting it, if I am intelligent enough, then I start to work, am I getting what I want? So the purpose of life is going to be, I want to be happy. At the same time, I'm going through like a rat race every day, working morning and evening. So they will come, they go, seasons come, seasons go, years come and years go. What is that I have accomplished in life? Did I get what I want in my pursuit? If I start asking a question, that inquiry starts only when I realize and look back my life itself. Then I find all my pursuits are not getting me what I want. They have essentially three defects that come into picture in all activities. That's called doshatrayam. There are three the doshas that are inherent in this. One is the asantruptikaram. That is because in everything I want, that I am going to get happiness, it gives me some happiness but still leaves me as an inadequate person, that I am still going after some more again. If I have $1 million, until I get $1 million, I am going to be happy with $1 million, but once I have $1 million, then I want some more things. So more wealth will give me more, but doesn't give me satisfied, like it's pouring a ghee to put out the fire. It will only become more fire only. So it will never end a situation where I am completely satisfied now. That situation will never come, because in every pursuit there is asantrupti. That means it is not fulfilling completely, because every action is finite and it cannot give you infinite result that I am longing for. So that becomes a problem in terms of the pursuit itself. And if you look back again, every happiness that I am getting, there is always dukkha misritatvam. There is always suffering along with the happiness. So every pleasure involves a pain also. Trying to get it is a painful. Trying to preserve it is also painful, and when I lose it also it will be painful. Therefore it is always a continuously process of trying to gain, and I have to suffer, and trying to preserve I have to suffer, and when I lose it also I suffer. It's called the dukkha misritatvam and asantruptikatvam. And the third factor is it becomes a bondage, because now I depend on it for my happiness. So therefore, if I get it, I am happy. If I don't get it, I am happy. And I am ready to do all, even adharmic things, in order to get what I want. And that's why you see a lot of people trying to gain which they cannot get by legal means. They approach illegal means in order to gain what they want, because that they think becomes happiness itself. So in all these pursuits themselves are limited, and I am trying to gain something which is not there and which cannot give me what I want. So when I look back and analyze it and find out this is not the way to go to get what I want. What I want is eternal, permanent happiness that I am longing for. I don't care for God, I don't care for anything else, or even life after life, this one, but what I am looking for is absolute permanent happiness. But happiness doesn't come outside. That means I have to recognize that I am the totality itself, or I am by myself happy. And in order to understand that only, the scripture advises, go to a teacher. So tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigachet. Says gurum eva, you have to approach a teacher. So the question is, why do I need to approach a teacher? What is that it can give me that it cannot get or something? What is that pursuit that tells me that I am already happy? So for that, only to learn that, I need a proper science to teach me. Now we look at a little bit in terms of analysis of the science itself a little bit, because a lot of people have confusion in terms of objective science as the total science. And even the scientists feel that that is the only science, and anything subjective they don't consider it as a science, because they think it is subjective, therefore it varies. So that which can be proved is only science. But what are the rules, or what are the tools that are available for proof? They are using objective tools called pratyaksha pramana, or direct perceptual data is required for them to prove. So is there a God or not? Show me. If I have to show God, then it cannot be God, because God is infinite. Infinite I cannot see. So therefore, that trying to use a tool that is not valid, and they invalidate, therefore the other things cannot be science, only that can be validated by objective tools, itself becomes a problem. So this is a fundamental problem of all atheists, as well as those who believe that there is no God and all that. They are looking for an objective analysis using objective tools, and they think they are scientific, but the science itself is only objective, and they forget that in every analysis there is a subject involved. So we have to understand what exactly is a science now, and why Vedanta becomes a science, and why we need to pursue or understand Vedanta. This is important because we are now going into details of what exactly Vedanta provides, what other science cannot provide. So if you look at closely, science means derived from the word seer, S-C-I-E-R. Seer is the root for science. Seer means to know. Science means knowledge. So therefore, whatever is the knowledge of the truth is a science, and science itself involves knowledge, and the knowledge is what? That which cannot be negated is the knowledge. So prama, that's called in Sanskrit, is prama. Prama means that which is valid, and that which is valid is that which cannot be negated by any other way, is called the absolute science. Now we have to look at what exactly is the science, and how exactly a scientist looks at it, and why Vedanta is a science also. This has to be understood properly. Now what exactly is a science? Science is essentially knowledge. We said in Sanskrit, to know means vid. Vid means to know, and Veda means knowledge. Therefore Veda and science means the same. So Veda is itself is science. And how can it be Veda is absolute science, and compared to relative science, that we need to understand. So in every science there are three aspects involved. One is the subject I and the object this. A scientist is trying to analyze the object. This is biology, chemistry, whatever that he is trying to analyze is different from him, the subject. So subject, a conscious entity as we analyze, and the object is inert entity, and the connection between the two is a means of knowledge for him, and the means of knowledge depends upon the object of knowledge. If I want to see something, I have to use the eyes to see. If I want to hear something, I have to use the ears to hear. So for every objective knowledge that depends upon the nature of the object, I had to use appropriate instrument that's called pramana. So pramana is means of knowledge, and prameyam is the object that I want to know, and object depends upon the means depends upon the object that I want to know. And for smelling, I need a different means of knowledge. I need the nose and the sense of smell. I need a sense of sight to see. I need a sense of hearing to hear. I need a sense of taste to taste. So I have 5 senses that I have, and using 5 senses, I interact with the world and I perceive the world. So the whole world is perceived through the 5 senses, and the 5 senses are functioning because the mind is behind it, and the mind and the 5 senses and I am a living conscious entity, all involved even in the scientific aspect. So even the analysis of either physics, chemistry, or anything, I have to be there as a subject, a conscious entity, and I am analyzing an object and means of knowledge. In the case of chemistry, I need a chemistry means of knowledge. That particular methodology of teaching is the pramana, is the means of knowledge to know chemistry. If I had to use astronomy, I have to use the telescopes. If I use microbiology, I need microscopes. So scopes are only magnifying my sense input so that I can understand the object properly. But behind every scope, there is a conscious entity that I am, a subject which is not objectified. So even in objective sciences depend upon a subject I, and without the subject I, conscious entity, the object this cannot be established. So simple example is, if I ask in a pitch dark room, completely dark, is there a chair in the room? You say, I don't know. So why do you don't know? Because I cannot see. Why you do not see? Because it's too dark. So to know whether the chair is there, you say a chair can be there or chair may not be there, the problem is only indeterminate, or the probability that the chair is there or not there is 50%. And when the light comes and when I see, that means my eyesight is functioning, the light is there for me, all things are there, then a consciousness that I am, when I see the object, then I say, yes, there is a chair, or no, there is not a chair. So the probability, the 50% probability has become a deterministic, that it is or it is not, only when the consciousness entity comes into picture to confirm the existent or non-existent of the object. So in every knowledge that takes place, conscious entity has to come into picture, and without the consciousness present, the existence of the object cannot be established. So all scientific analysis of the objective senses are only dealing with the objective world using a pramana, but this has to be understood that there is something other than this in order for me to investigate. So if I look at this clearly, I am a conscious entity and there is an object, and these two has to be there for even objective sciences to be established. Otherwise, I cannot say the world is there. So therefore, it is the even the objective sciences require a conscious entity. Without the presence of the conscious entity, the existence of the inert entity cannot be established. So this has to be understood as the essence of the knowledge itself. So how exactly analyze the subject I? The subject I cannot be analyzed by using an objective science. So I say, I want to know who am I, or what is my nature. I cannot understand who is that I by using objective tools, because I am not an object, I am a subject. Everything is object, and object cannot become subject, and subject cannot become an object. So what kind of tool I need in order to analyze the total system, that is the subject and the object and the relation between the two? I cannot use any objective tools for it. I had to use something that reveals the nature of the absolute subject, which cannot be objectified. And that's why that is the Vedanta. Vedanta is, it tries to give complete knowledge of who you are, a conscious entity. So analysis of consciousness cannot be done through any objective means, and I need a separate science in order to analyze the total system that involves both the subject and the object and my relationship between them. Therefore, the Vedanta becomes a science. So why Vedanta alone, not other sciences? So any science that gives you the analysis of the subject and the object and the relation between the two, that analyze the consciousness that I am and the inner things that are there and how these two things are related, if that can be done, that is, we call it a Vedanta. So that is, Vedanta means that is the ultimate knowledge, because we said no, Veda is knowledge. Vedanta means that is the ultimate knowledge that includes both the subject and the object and the relation between the two. And to analyze that only, we need to have one who knows this subject. And that's why we need a teacher. And therefore, the scripture says, for that to know, you have to approach a teacher. Why do I need to know the subject and object and so on? Because we just established that I am happy by myself. That means the subject that I am is full by itself. But if I am full by myself, why am I looking for objects for me to become happy? That's because of there is a confusion in my own mind about myself and the world. For that only, I need a Vedanta, or I need an absolute science that includes both the consciousness and unconscious entities, and what is my relation between the conscious entities and unconscious entities. And that is provided by Vedanta. So with that, we will look into that. What is the teacher that I need to go? What kind of teacher I need? And how should I approach a teacher? And why should I approach a teacher? All this we will analyze next. And right now, we understand that Vedanta is required in order to understand the truth. And what is Vedanta? That includes both the subject and the object and the relation. A consciousness which cannot be objectified, and the objects that are relation between the two. With that, we will stop now. We will do now Purnamada Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, you can go.